Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Good evening, viewers. Welcome to Punchline Africa TV, broadcasting all the way from the Republic of Kenya in Nairobi. Viewers, wherever you are in the world watching us, this is Punchline Africa TV. The show is MATSANGA Africa Perspective. Those going to watch on our channel 003, channel 003 of, in conjunction with our partners, Punchline Africa TV, in conjunction with our partners, South Cameroon Broadcasting Corporation, on our satellite, live from Germany. Viewers, this is a show you don't want to miss every Monday evening from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. This is a show that looks at Africa, what ails Africa, what kills Africa, what destroys Africa. Why have we got this problem where it is? Why are African countries the way they are? How can they help themselves? How can we Africans, patriotic Africans, help our countries to advance in several spheres of influence? We fall victims. We fall victims of all calamities. We have the earthquake, we have tropical cyclone, we have bad weather, we have tough conditions, some places in Africa, where roads are not available, water is not available, food becomes scarce. That is the Africa we live in. And yet, this continent, this continent is the continent that has plenty of rainfall in the tropics. The weather is 70 degrees. For example, in my country, Uganda, the weather is 70 degrees throughout the year. not very hot, not very cold. We are able to produce all seasons, to grow more food, so that there is no starving nation. Other nations in Africa starve because of lack of planning that has created difficulties. Security is one of the issues that creates the difficulties that we see on the continent. The topic today, therefore, is a wider topic. Has corruption eaten Africa? I submit to the honest that yes, corruption has destroyed this continent. We have plenty, we have resources, we have minerals, we have good climate, but we are corrupt. The entire population of the African situation is corrupt. Corrupted by events that are made by ourselves. A self-inflicted wound or self-inflicted wounds appear in Africa. We are enemies of ourselves. We eat this money. We make deals. We make kickbacks. We corrupt the judges. We corrupt the police. We corrupt every institution that we had. We become conduits of graft that destroys Africa. From north to south, east to west, there is no country in Africa that has no scandal as a result of corruption. Is corruption eating Africa? Has corruption eaten Africa? I submit that yes, it has eaten Africa. Yes, it has destroyed Africa. Yes, it will kill Africa. Yes, the future generation, if we go the stage we are going through, you will see that corruption is the menace, is the cancer, is the disease that will make Africa remain backward. As we move forward, we are brought back by scandals of few individuals taking money in their hands, eating it with their families, with their relatives, with their children, banking it for their children to be all right. Africa is the continent where you see all this happen. Some countries in Europe have measures on how to detect corruption. Some countries in Europe have put regulations, laws that govern any form of corruption. For example, it is very difficult to bribe a policeman in the United Kingdom because it will be another crime for you having uttered any word that will make that you obstruct or pervert the course of justice. It is another charge sheet apart from the one they came to arrest you for. But it is very normal in Africa, in my country, Uganda, in Nigeria, in South Africa, in Kenya, in Egypt, in the Central African Republic, if there is any government at all, in DRC Congo, in many countries in Africa, big men are cutting out deals. The so-called middle class. Is there a middle class in Africa? Many people like me don't believe that there is a middle class in Africa. I believe there is a thieving class in Africa. I believe there is a thieving class that steals from the poor and that steals from the government. Such a class is never a middle class. Such a class, therefore, is just a pseudo class. Most of the people in Africa, in Uganda, in other places, very few of them out of 100%, you get about 10% who have really worked hard for their own money. The rest have been involved in corruption or graft somehow, somewhere in their lives. Is Africa in the danger? Are we moving towards the destruction of our own continent? You look at the countries, time up. Are people about to say, I don't want to be associated with Africa? Are people saying so? Yes, there are some people who would like to say so. On MATSANGA Africa perspective, as I sit down, in a few minutes, I'll be telling you in details how corruption has become a disease, a cancer. If we don't cure it, we don't deal with it, if we don't put the laws of Singapore on this continent, Africa will not be the Africa we want tomorrow. We can build the roads, airstrips, airports, but the Africa with corruption, those airstrips will be empty. Those airports will be empty. I want to take this opportunity to give a little example. Way back in the 80s and 90s, when you travel through Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, the only way that you can pass through was to have money under the passport or in the passport. That is in the 80s, 90s. Most of us who grew up, who have traveled through those airports many times, the immigration officer in this country, that time, not now, and I want to bring to you that corruption can be fought. Immigration officers of the 1980s, 90s, during Moi regime, and during the regimes behind in the 70s, because some of us were here. In the 70s, after the independence, corruption was not there. Very little corruption was available. Senior immigration officer was catered for. All the immigration officers at the airport, Wilson Airport, had a house, a good house, a good civil servant. The salary was coming in the time. Conditions were very conducive. You could have a beer in a club. You could do, there was a social contract that was left in Africa by the colonial master, that a letter could be posted and it can reach you when it has money inside. Can a letter reach you today in Nigeria, wherever you are in Kaduna? If your relative puts $200 in a letter to go to you to Kaduna, can this letter reach you? No. It will be eaten somewhere in the middle, and you won't have the money inside. Has corruption eaten us? Has Africa been eaten by corruption? The answers are yes. We have destroyed ourselves. Time and time again, the immigration officers at Jomo Kenyatta, those days, in 1980, 70, 80, late 70s, 79, 80, 80, 81, when you travel through Kenya, you want to come, somebody will say, aha, you have not greeted me. Then you say, what greetings? How are you? Good morning. Habari yako. Oh, in Uganda, in Entebbe, you say, Oliotia Sebo. In Juba, you could say, I'm coming Bukura. In Khartoum, in those places. But the immigration officer would ask you, what did you come with? Today in Kenya, as much as people paint a picture of a bad state of corruption, that department is the most effective department as far as working relations with the public is concerned. There's no migration officer who asks for money. There's no immigration officer at the JKA who will say, give me before you go or you come in. That is a credit for the people of Kenya. It's a credit for people of East Africa. Because of the single visa issuance of the single visa, which will allow tourists to travel in all the East African states. It takes a good name for people to praise the Kenya immigration officers at Jomo Kenyatta Airport, Mombasa Airport, and other airports for being good handling officers who asks you, stamp your passport, you go. That is a credit for this country. Amidst all these difficulties that we hear of cases of corruption, plunder, thieving, looting of billions, the stories that never end, there is hope that there are some departments beginning, or they have worked during the Kibaki era. Immigration department changed the cleanliness, the effectiveness, the handling of customers. I was very impressed in 2003 when I arrived here from London with Sky News, that we are going to do our usual things in Africa and through Mogadishu, because that is where we had wanted to go, and where we went with Lindsay of ITN when the Islamic courts were still in power. We wanted to do a documentary in Mogadishu to interview Sharif Ahmed Sharif, or the president by then of Islamic court. We passed through an immigration department that was organized. They looked at our equipment, they looked at the passports, they told us that you will deal with the customs for the cameras because you have to register them, then you return them so that you don't sell them. That is where things started. It has continued to be better and better for the people of Kenya. Elsewhere in Africa, the scandals that you see that did kill Africa, destroy Africa, will be seen when I come back. But for now, Africa is being eaten by scandals of big corruption. Corruption, kickbacks, technocrats, tenderers, men who have come up with briefcases, well organized, well dressed, with sharp suits, conning people, telling people that these stones are plenty in Congo. If you want to bring the good ones, you pay tax and you bring them and you can sell them without anybody coming to arrest you. Why do you bring fake ones? Why do you bring fake gold? Yet gold in Congo can be bought and you get a certificate and fly with it. Why have we created a society that has not changed its mindset? Corruption is not one-way traffic. We shall look at the effects. Does Africa corrupt itself? Or there are other multinational, international companies that deal with corruption? I'll look at the case of Uganda versus Mr. Chang. The United States versus a gentleman, a minister in Hong Kong, in China, who has been then imprisoned for corruption. The ramifications of such cases, what are the implications for countries that internationally extend their corrupt tendencies to international waters, where our name is soiled down, Those are the ramifications I want to look at. I want to leave you with a video now as I prepare to take on the entire discussion of country by country. I'll look at Nigeria as one of the countries in Africa that this index is of corruption. The rate of corruption, the rate of conning, the rate of is high. Later on, I'll look in my program, I'll look at South Africa, another big country whose economy Africa can rely on. Nigeria's economy, South African economy, and then I'll come to East Africa, Kenya. And in East Africa, Kenya is a big market, is a big country that has the potential industries to supply goods and to be bought. The population of Kenya is below 50 million. It needs, but Kenya produces commodities that are needed in the population of 200 million Nigerians. Do we do the trade? Do we allow corruption to kill us? I'll come to another economy in Africa, Egypt. It's one of the biggest economies in the north. Before the changes of an uprising, the spring uprising that removed the president, Hosni Mubarak, Egypt's economy has stood as a giant on River Nile. We shall look at that economy. Then lastly, we come to Kenya and look at the scandals, the difficulties of all these scandals. Where does it put Kenya? Let's look at one Kenyan who was lamenting, who wanted to change her identity. She said she wants to change her identity because she looks at the whole thing as corruption has become too much. Her salary, everything, every morning she wakes up, she has got a problem with corruption. Something has happened. My production team can bring the video as we prepare to discuss further the obstacles of corruption and why.
My people, I've decided to change my accent. I'm even changing my identity. If you see my name says Ogwabekele, that is my new identity, because this country has decided to make me feel like I'm a squatter. I'm not even a citizen. I'm a squatter for this country, and I have to pay for everything that they do. I don't even know. Do you think I'm a refugee to you people? Because I don't even understand what I do in this country. You decide to feed me poison. You allow poison to come in form of sugar, and you know that I'm addicted to sugar because it's the only sweet thing in this country. After I drink that sugar, you come up now with a budget to increase price of bread, milk, everything, anything that I eat in this country of yours, because it's no longer ours, it's yours, you people in those government offices. Oh, hey, this one I have to breathe twice because one breath is not even going to finish this video. I go read newspapers. Now you have decided to deduct my own little salary, my little peanuts that you pay me every day. On top of that, now you want to deduct what my Beluchuku, my husband who works for security firm, me and him combined, our salary is only 50,000 Kenyan shillings. For those who are wondering what is 50,000 Kenyan shillings, that is $500 US. Hey, chihuahua. On top of that, even before that salary hits my account, there is NHIF, wow, value added tax. After that, I don't know, pay as I earn. I don't even know why I'm paying as I earn, because whatever I'm getting paid is not even feeding my own kids. Oh, hey, wow, why did I even get born as a Kenyan? Can I appeal to my mother to be born somewhere else? Maybe somewhere else. Maybe, hey, wow, this country go kill me one day, or not even ulcers. No, hey. My mind is not even thinking straight. Now you want to deduct those little peanuts to build houses, build construction. Can you build me one house before first? I'll be paying you later after you build my house, because I don't know why you want to deduct my salary. I would like to know what this Minister of Finance was smoking, because that budget is not for Kenya. Can you tell me why you smoking something that is not even served in Kenya? Because that budget may be for Mars or Jupiter, because we cannot even afford trillion. You were talking about trillion budget, yet I can. You pay me peanut. You pay yourself money to drive Gazlas. I myself, I don't even know the motorbike or even bicycle to go to work. I have to wake up at 5:30. Yet you still want to deduct that money. I'm very pissed off. Hey, Chihuahua. I am appealing for my birth certificate. Can it be changed? Maybe I should move to Uganda. Uganda maybe is much better. Hey, Minister of Finance, you go kill me. Hey, Raila Odinga, that handshake, can you take it back, because we need opposition? No, because this government, if you opposition and government work together, we go die. Mr. Raila Odinga, take back handshake. Tell people to be peaceful, but take back handshake. Because hey, wow, we need opposition. We need opposition leader in that government. Hey, hey.
Thank you very much, viewers. You have seen that clip of one Kenyan lady who said she has had enough. She has had enough not because the president has not said and told people about corruption, but she has had enough. She wants to leave the country. She wants to say enough is enough in Kenya. She wants to take a leave. She wants to change her ID nationality because of corruption. 75 million people in sub-Saharan Africa have received or have paid a bribe in the past 1 year. Some of them pay to escape punishment by police, by courts, but many are forced to pay to get access to basic services. Most of you who have talked to me, and most of you who have actually indicated, I can see very many of you talking about visa fees of Sudan, South Sudan, $150 for a visa to enter South Sudan. Many of you have sent a lot of comments. But let's look at the facts on the ground. Around 80% of African people live on less than $2 a day. Corruption is one factor that is bringing poverty, disease, ignorance, and above all, insecurity. The entire Africa is insecure. Is insecure in terms of corruption. We saw in the morning how corruption and insecurity, how security situation, how security is the key to opening up Karamoja in Uganda and Turkana in Kenya. How many people in this Kenyan Republic would like to see that Karamoja or Turkana remains the sick child of Kenya all the time? Every drought hits Turkana. Every flood hits Turkana. Can't we change? But how can you change when corruption is embedded in every institution that is supposed to deliver services to the people of Turkana? I looked at today a dam that was supposed to be built for 110 million shillings for the water for the animals to come and drink water. It is not worth it. When the Red Cross official was trying to explain yesterday in Kenya, I felt like crying tears. This money was not properly used. This money was global. And yet the Red Cross in Kenya continues to tell people by putting figures on television that we need 800 million. But when you ask them for accountability, you don't get the accountability. They have turned institutions in Kenya into commercialization of the Red Cross, which we knew from Switzerland that it's never commercialized. Millions of people are dying. Millions of people are starving. Projects that were for 5-6 years ago, we don't see anything on the ground. All what we are told are skeletons of this, of that, of this, of that. Does the Red Cross therefore account for what we give? Yes, Abbas Gullet might be a very good guy. I have no problem with him. He's my friend. But if there is no accountability, why should Kenyans continue to pay you money when you are an organization that rescues even people at war? You must go between you can be and airlift Kenyan troops, AMISOM, in Somalia, between Al-Shabaab and the war and the AMISOM. You will bring out why do you fail to do a project of a dam in Masabit. It brought me shame that indeed we have problems as Africans. Indeed, as we live on 80% of Africans live on $2 per day, which is brought by corruption. Our standards of living would have gone up if we were not corrupt. If all this money that is supposed, if you look at the newspapers, for example, this is a newspaper from Kenya. It talks about MPs now demand better pay and grants. Where are you getting the grant and the pay from? When you have not made the law that is going to stop the thieves from ever touching the money so that you get a good grant. Do we really get service for our work? Do we get the pay for the work we do? Do we have a service charter? have the MPs got a charter to tell the people of Kenya how they have performed in making laws that will stop thieves from taking money, that will imprison thieves, take the thieves into jail in committee, for them to have a rise in pay, a better pay, if they had done a law, changed the law around corruption, that if you steal money from the government, if you misuse your office, if you mishandle your office, if you have abuse of office, you will stay 6 months without bail. Can Kenya try that? I'm speaking this afternoon when others are playing golf. I should be also be playing golf. But as a Pan-African, I'm speaking because I am pained. Many Kenyans think I'm against anybody. I'm not against anybody. I have not named any corrupt man. It's not my responsibility to name corrupt man. It is the responsibility of the DCI, the DPP, the government, and the courts. It's not me. I am only trying to educate people ways of how we can combat corruption. We must change our law. We must change our law. The Kenyan people must change the law. That when you steal taxpayers' money, you spend 6 months on remand while your investigations are being conducted. There is freedom of life, of exercise, Bill of Rights. Every Kenyan quotes Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights. What is Bill of Rights when you don't have water in Turkana? What is the Bill of Right when someone has eaten the money that would have done a borehole in Turkana? What is the Bill of Right? I want you to tell me. I want those who say it is a Bill of Right, we have the right to be given bail. The Kenyan law must be changed. I agree with the MPs. They need good pay. But the good pay must come with good performance. You must deliver a law, help the president to deliver a law that will imprison some gentlemen, they go to jail. If you have taken government money, try it. Try it. Pass this law within 2 months. If you have taken government money, abused corruptly, abused government money, stay 6 months in jail. Even if it's a mere allegation, mandatory 6 months. In Uganda, it is done. In Rwanda, it is done. In Ethiopia, it's done. What rights do you want when you have stolen billions and you have made Turkana old woman of 80 years to die without water, without a borehole? What right do you have to exist and walk with your suits around here telling people that I'm very good, I'm a good person, when you have fleeced workers? What right do you have when you have destroyed the National Health and Insurance Fund? You have clobbered 4.5 billion shillings gone to your house. What right do you have to tell people? The right you have is Singapore way. The president take Singapore route. The parliament take Singapore route. The parliament take Singapore route. If you want this Kenya, which we want love, we all love. Foreigners, indigenous, everybody loves Kenya. Go and insult Kenya anywhere. When some of us are around, we shall fight you. But I'm not a Kenyan. But if I see you insulting a Kenyan and molesting him, I'll fight with you. Because you are insulting a neighbor, a Kenyan. How long can we keep quiet when the money is being siphoned? Let people stay 3 months in jail while the DPP and the DCI are looking for all factors. Then they can bring the file to Mr. Maraga, if he's going to be there. Because Maraga also has a role to play. But when you have Maraga, how a man, look at that, united in theft, all this, corruption kills. This is Uganda and Kenya in the streets of Nairobi. People have tried to bring out a message that the country is being eaten to a standstill. Elsewhere in Africa, corruption has injured several countries. It is corruption that brought coups in Nigeria. There was nothing else. It is corruption that has brought military coups in Nigeria. If you look at all the military coups that Nigeria had, from Babangida, Aronzi, Buhari, Abubakar, Abacha, all these coups throughout were brought by corruption. In Nigeria, there is no coup in Nigeria that has come because people want to help the natives of Nigeria. All military coups, including Obasanjo. Obasanjo came to power because he wanted to grab. In fact, Obasanjo is one of the biggest grabbers in Nigerian military. If you research, which I have researched, and you will find that what he grabbed quite a lot, a national cake. He was used. He got kickbacks from Total Oil to build an empire in his home, leaving Nigerians very poor people. Buhari grabbed the first coup of Buhari, which toppled another general, came in and grabbed. Why Buhari is able to marshal an election and win is a thief. The background of Buhari is theft. Babangida grabbed. If you look at the lifestyle of Babangida today, his children will never go hungry because he grabbed, he stole. The lifestyle of Buhari, he stole. The lifestyle of Obasanjo, he stole. The lifestyle of Abubakar, he stole. But what brought the coups in Nigeria is corruption. Any researcher can challenge me because I've read it. I'm not reading any notes. It's here. I studied African contemporary politics, the military coups. If you look at the military coups that took place in Nigeria, Nigeria is assessed as a neo-patrimonial state where power is maintained through the awarding of personal favors. Can you listen to that statement? Power is awarded through personal favors, and where politicians may abuse their position to extract as much rent-seeking governments. Oh my God! This is Africa. This is where we are. Nigeria eats itself. Buhari would have not won an election if he didn't steal during the military coup. That's a fact. I have no regrets for what I'm stating. I'm going to state each and every country. We are tracing why corruption is eating Africa today. Why are we having conflicts? Why should we have no water 55 years after independence in Turkana? Why are we not having, why do we still have people without clothes 55 years in Turkana? When across Uganda, the Karamojongs are wearing shirts and shorts and dresses, and they are digging They are not cattle rustling. Why are we having water across in Moroto, in Kapiripiri, in Kidepo, and we don't have water across in Lodwa? The case of Kenya brings more pain when you look at it. But when we come back to Nigeria, Nigeria has consistently been ranked high in corruption by Transparent International and other notable organizations that monitor corrupt tendencies on the African continent. In 2001, for example, Nigeria was ranked the second most corrupt country in the world out of 91 countries. Second only to Bangladesh. Is this the Africa we want? Yes, Bangladesh, formerly West Pakistan, for all students listening to my lecture this evening. Because MATSANGA Africa Perspective also teaches students, and I want to thank students, millions of you, no, hundreds of thousands of you who have written to me, to my email thanking me for the lecture that I give on contemporary issues of Africa. This station has done a great job in doing so. Nigeria, corruption takes many forms in Nigeria, starting with embezzlement, bribery, rituals, and election rigging. One of the factors that destroys Africa, which ends up, you start with bribery, rituals, embezzlement, and then you end up rigging an election. That is the pattern of corruption in Nigeria. If you are not rich, if you have not embezzled, like Obasanjo, you can't win an election. If you have not embezzled, like Buhari, you can't win an election in Nigeria. Atiku was banned from going into United States of America. Then you can't win an election. The pattern goes on and goes on. It reaches a point of why corruption has eaten Africa and there is a crisis all the time. Look at the countries where corruption index is high. It ends in a corruption, in a very big bloodshed flowing on the streets of that particular country. I can name for you. Look at Egypt. Look at Tunisia. Look at Ivory Coast. Look at Central African Republic. Look at the latest country in East and Central Africa, Sudan. Corruption in South Sudan is what made Riek Machar and Salva Kiir disagree. If there is anybody who has any better arrangement to tell me, right here, ring me, ring this phone and tell me it was not corruption that created the guns that blew up Juba, that blew up South Sudan up to date. It was corruption. So when you look at the corruption tendencies in Nigeria, starts with embezzlement, bribery, rituals, it ends up with corruption in election rigging, where Buhari, out of 84 million people on the continent of Africa, the biggest nation in Africa, 84 million voters registered to vote. 54 million did not vote. Is that a government? Mr. Buhari, you are watching. And I tagged your people in the office in Abuja. Is that a government? Time has come for us to talk as Africans. What else shall we tell God when we reach his judgment day that I did what in Africa? That Dr. MATSANGA sat and did what? I'll tell God I was talking every day about corruption. But the people did not listen to me. That's the judgment I will make If God wants to make a judgment because I have talked about corruption, so be it. But I have to tell the truth about Africa. We are in chaos. We are being eaten. Every country in Africa has a problem. Look at South Sudan. Before I go to South Sudan, policemen are seen in Nigeria as enemies because they can deny the truth. They can collect bribes to do so. Because of the encounters, many Nigerians, can you listen to this one? Very exciting. Because of the encounters many Nigerians have had with many policemen in Nigeria, even the good ones among them are generalized as bad. As that girl there, the woman told you, she wants to change her ID because of corruption. She's a Kenyan. Her ID, she's known Kenyan. She comes from one of the counties where she has been lamenting about corruption. Let's come to South Sudan. South Sudan, a country that got independence from Khartoum after many years of oppression by Bashir and other external forces that wanted to make an Islamic state of Sudan. The South Sudan people decided to break away and get their independence, thanks to Uganda, Kenya, and others that helped the people of South Sudan to achieve independence, including the Lord Resistance Army that fought against them. May God help them that this country was born. But no sooner had this country got independence than the war erupted again. This war this time is not an Arab versus an Arab. It is a black man called General Riek Machar versus General Salva Kiir. They are killing their own black people, their own black Africans. They are not killing Arab Africans. They are killing the real people. They have destroyed this nation called South Sudan. They have made women to be raped. They have destroyed, killed women. There are no schools for the children. Corruption. Hasn't corruption killed many countries in Africa? It has. The example of South Sudan, where guns range up to today. The people of Kenya, Uganda have tried to make sure that corruption that sparked the same evil does not return. But every time an agreement is signed, Dr. Riek Machar returns to Khartoum and sits until this agreement generates into another fighting mode. How long is Africa going to tolerate this? Corruption has destroyed our continent. Viewers, we come to South Africa. South Africa is a nation that Mandela created and brought out of the pain of having been imprisoned on Robben Island and being imprisoned for almost 28 years for the crimes he didn't commit, but because for the color that God produced him with. Mandela suffered under apartheid regime. Mandela stood for this nation to come out South Africa presents the best example of how corruption can kill a good economy. The former president, Jacob Zuma, never bothered, never looked back, never asked why people were complaining about his leadership. First, there is this saying, first they heard about the spies, then they heard about the security brothels and the private planes, and the whole time they were hearing about assassins. You remember who said that? Black South Africans are still mostly shut out of the country's economic opportunities, while the ANC officials have enriched themselves. If South African enrichment, most of the officials have enriched themselves. The capital is not in their hands. I want to thank President Ramaphosa for passing the land redistribution program, for taking over the land and saying, yes, land will be taken without compensation. Because when land was being taken from Shaka the Zulu and the rest of the kings who were there, nobody compensated them. I don't see the reason why people want to compensate when we can only share. If you have one farm, stick with your own farm, with your house, and deliver your where you want to deliver them. But allow the hectares for some black people to be on their land. They need also to exist just as you need to exist. I want to thank Cyril Ramaphosa for the new dawn of hope that he has tackled and intends to tackle. To thank South Africans, I want to wish them that they vote him again in 2019 elections, that Ramaphosa can steer this country towards the destination that it is supposed to reach. The South Africans were under state capture by the Gupta brothers. The Gupta brothers came to South Africa seeking opportunity, and in their 25 years, they went from selling shoes to showing off their private planes, from large multinational corporations that paid them for access to senior people of the ANC, officials who diverted money meant for the poor. The Guptas ran an empire in South Africa that destroyed any hope of South Africa getting rid of corruption. Egypt. Viewers, as you might see, there's no country in Africa that is not touched. Corruption was one of the primary reasons that pushed the masses in Egypt to come to the streets. Because President Hosni Mubarak created his family, put his family, separated, supplied, equipped corruption through his family, and there was a problem. Until the uprising took shape, he was overthrown. Today, Egypt is picking up the pieces from President Assisi. And the correct ranking of Egypt in 2015 is 88 out of 168 in improvement over 2014, where they ranked 94th out of 175 corrupt countries in the world. That is a step forward, and that happens. Uganda. Viewers, you will know that this is a Pan-African station. We discuss every country. And Edwin Bet, when you say go tell Uganda, you are the most daft person that I can see It is not only Uganda that suffers or Kenya that suffers corruption. All countries suffer corruption. I have not mentioned who is corrupt. I'm just putting the theories that corruption can lead to a war. Corruption can lead to a government going down. Corruption can lead to medicine not being in the hospitals. Corruption can lead to schools. Corruption can lead to you not able to detect that there is an earthquake trauma like yesterday. Corruption in the media can create problems. Can you bring the clip for the media for people to see why the media in Kenya, for example, yesterday did not warn people that when you are traveling on my road, there will be a problem because there was a trauma. Corruption. Most of the media people in this country are paid with envelopes to look for politicians in churches, look politicians in funerals, bring photographs, but they cannot warn the natives that don't drive on that road because there might be cracks. We woke up in the morning and we saw some of the cars had to be diverted. It's corruption. Bring that clip, Fred, to show how the media in Kenya has played a role in accelerating corruption, so that we can say this is the way corruption goes in the entire world. That's the road. This morning, the media in this country did not say anything regarding the trauma that passed, because the media were obsessed with some other difficulties. They did not show to travelers that there was a slight tremor that passed through the volcanic states of the world. Corruption is not a one-man show. Corruption is something that touches most of the people in Africa. We can see countries, we shall come to countries where corruption has been fought. That is the clip I'm talking about, Fred. It is on the corruption that you see. If you bring out that clip, you will see how whether media in Africa has helped in fighting corruption, or media in Africa darkens the entire scenario of corruption. Bring it on. Is it ready?
Record must be very straight, because the media have ways of twisting things. The media have ways of twisting things.
Thank you very much, viewers, wherever you are in Africa. That clip shows the role of the media in tackling in the war against corruption. That was one of my segments that I wanted to ask. Do we as the media talk about corruption? Do we, educate the people about corruption? Do we discuss corruption? Do we cover it fully? Do we expose the facts? Do we do investigative pieces? I would not like to leave this platform today without asking journalists in Nigeria, journalists in Ghana, journalists in South Africa, when the Guptas were taking this money, when the Guptas were capturing the state, where were you? How many of you dared to look for stories that could bring down the Gupta, expose? Today in most of the countries in Africa, including Kenya, many journalists have feared to talk about these issues. I'm one of the few who talks about them frankly. I'm one of the few people who talks about the courts. The courts in Kenya, the courts in Nigeria, the courts in Ghana, the courts in South Africa, the courts in Zimbabwe, there is corruption. The courts in Uganda, there is something that takes place. The courts in South Sudan, the courts in Democratic Republic of Congo, these are our courts. Corruption has become a culture for the African people. When you reach Heathrow Airport, the first thing that an Englishman will ask you, where have you come from today? You say Lagos. The customs man, how much is the customs? If you say you came from Lagos Airport, or Abuja, or Port Harcourt, he will tell you, can you step aside? Why? There is a perception that anybody coming from Africa and coming from Nigeria has got a problem. But not because Nigerians are thieves. No. The leaders are the thieves who put us on the map. If your leader is eating, if Buhari is eating, stealing the money, Buhari's wife has stashed over $2.5 billion in the Citibank in New York. You saw the list of the richest Nigerians who had banked money in New York. I don't have time to read it, all of it, but you can Google and find out. This money is in the United States. It is not helping Africa. It is not helping any school. It is not helping any cyclone victim in Mozambique. It is not helping any cyclone citizen in Zimbabwe or Malawi. It is helping the banks, the institutions of the United States that make interest out of the money that Africans steal and hide in the Citibank and New York and Morgan and other institutions of banking in the United States. The money that is stolen in Africa is banked in overseas accounts. They develop. We always talk about flying. These countries, even when we bank money, they give us restriction on visa. We Africans allow everybody to get their visa from the airport. Anybody coming from America can get his visa from Jomo Kenyatta Airport. But the money that we have stolen and banked in America is what develops the America to become a super state. And then America says, before you come to our place, carry a bundle of documents to prove why you are coming here. Yet it was our money that was taken from here that built the metros of Europe. You see the logic? It was the man of Nigeria from the time of Aronsi. When Aronsi took over, the military came, another military came, another one came. All these people have been stealing money. Where have they been taking this money? Buying houses in London. If you go in London, you will find very many houses of Bukhari and his relatives. But you have built the economy of the people of the British system. You are not building the economy of Nigeria. You have stolen from Nigeria to build an economy in Europe. If you look at Yaoundé today in Cameroon, it is corruption that has brought this nation to a division of two states, the English-speaking and French-speaking. Corruption has divided, killed Cameroon. If Biya was very equitable, he would have allowed the other people. But because he siphons from Amazonia, he cannot allow. And God has placed minerals and other resources in English-speaking Cameroon and failed to give the French-speaking Cameroon any good things. So Biya has annexed the English-speaking territory of Amazonia and killing people, maiming people, destroying their houses, killing women, raping women, defiling children. That is the way of Cameroon army is doing in Nigeria. In Uganda, about 1 in 6 companies indicate that the court system is a major constraint in their ability to do business. Ugandan courts are generally uphold the sanctity of contracts through judicial corruption. All cases that have gone to court in Uganda on contracts, the companies have won, thereby depriving the people who want to do business of the ability to do business in Uganda. Public service in Uganda, corruption remains endemic and is an accepted means of getting rich in Uganda is corruption. 38% of the public service users had paid a bribe in the previous 12 months. Last year only, 38% of Ugandans paid a bribe in order to get the services. Uganda is ranked 151 out of 183 countries in the Transparency International 2017 Corruption Perception Index. Surely, there we are. How many places were we? We are only 22 places, 32 places away from reaching the goal of the last country. The problem of our country, Uganda, is the president has put the laws, the parliament has put laws. There is one thing that Uganda system can teach the Kenyan system. And I want to be very, you can learn even from a place where you call there is no system. In Uganda, to get bail, once you have been mentioned on corruption charges, it is impossible. You will spend 6 months while asking the magistrate to give you. It's mandatory. Even the judge does not look at you, looks at you, mentions your case, you go back to Luzira. After 6 months, they fix the date for hearing. If the date has come for hearing, you can hear your case while you are still in prison, or you can get any form of consideration of, if the crime is not billions. The case of the PS, the permanent secretary in one of the ministries and the 2 accountants who connived with businessmen to take over 41 billion. Mr. Ramafa in Uganda today is serving a sentence of about, he wanted the sentence to be reduced. The judge even increased the sentence. All of the 3 are in, they never got bail. That is one thing that Uganda has done and the parliament has done, that to amend the bail conditions for any suspect who abuses office and misappropriates funds. My last country today, viewers, is the country of Zimbabwe. As you are aware, Zimbabwe is ranked as 154th country out of 176 countries in 2016 by Transparent International Index of Corruption Perception Index. In 2008, Transparent International director announced that Zimbabwe loses $5 million to corruption every day. Zimbabwe loses $5 million to corruption every day. Investors in Zimbabwe face, that was way back. But at the moment, investors are being encouraged with the new regime of my comrade friend Emerson Mnangagwa and my General Chiwenga and the General Simbayanda Moyo and the General Field Marshal Theory, the comrades that we have struggled together. They have allowed and they want you to go and invest, because Zimbabwe faces the sanctions from the bigger brother that has remained putting sanctions and roadblocks towards this small country from going into a situation where it can stand on its own feet. You can imagine Zimbabwe has diamonds that it produces, but the United States of America condemns Zimbabwe not even to sell their own diamonds to international markets so that they can feed their own people. This type of behavior is what in the coming months is what we are going to face fire by fire. Zimbabwe can trade its diamonds with Kenya. We can trade them. We can bring them here and sell them, because we are not going to listen to America that does not want us, the people of Zimbabwe, to sell their diamonds into the world market. Yet we have diamonds that can pay for essential commodities that can fill the shops in Zimbabwe. Why would you ban Zimbabwe from selling its own minerals and then put sanctions on the country? You are now being more corrupt than corruption itself. So the leadership of Zimbabwe should look at African markets. And I will work out a paper soon to make sure that you look at the African market, where we can also tell America that we can do business with other African countries. The corruption tendencies in Zimbabwe have come to a minimum. There is a moderate risk of corruption in the judicial sector. A moderate risk. The Zimbabwe judiciary is not very corrupt, just like compared to the question of other countries where, like in Kenya, where corruption index in the judiciary is so high. Zimbabwe still has got infrastructure that can bring this country, if we allowed them to stand on their own and delivered their own gold, their own diamonds, their own rehabilitation programs, reconstruction programs, re-engagement programs, Zimbabwe can rise and shine again. Corruption under President Mugabe was rampant. Amai Mugabe, Grace Mugabe became a conduit. But corruption under Mnangagwa is restricted. It is a crime. I want to tell you one thing about Zimbabwe that when the president appealed for people to return money, good Zimbabweans returned money from abroad and brought it back in millions of dollars. Within 6-7 months, he had collected over $5 billion. That is a gesture of a country that still has got a semblance of a middle class, an educated class, a literate class. Remember, Zimbabwe ranks as one of the few countries on the African continent with the high rate of education. Literacy in Zimbabwe is the highest. Most Zimbabweans speak English. Most Zimbabweans are trained. When you go for an interview with a Zimbabwean in London, don't expect you to pass if you are from Uganda like me. You lose that interview. Zimbabweans are educated. They need help. The corruption is not tolerated anymore. Corruption is a taboo. If you are caught now in Zimbabwe, you don't survive. Emmerson Mnangagwa is doing it. Give him the support. Don't put sanctions on Africa. In summary, therefore, have sanctions eaten Africa? Sorry, has corruption eaten Africa? In my submission, looking at all African headlines and the countries that I have mentioned, my viewers, you can make your own conclusion. You can make your own conclusion that in Cameroon, yes. In Nigeria, worse. In Uganda, yes. In Egypt, yes. In South Africa, yes, Zuma is working. In Uganda, Museveni is working on corruption. I give credit where it is due. When you are arraigned as a corrupt official, it is very rare that President Museveni has ever come in. Even his own deputy president, the vice president of Uganda, Bukenya, and others, he was sacked for having inflated the prices of motor vehicles hired during the Commonwealth Conference. Bukenya lost his job. The deputy president of Uganda, a professor of medicine from Makerere University, became so corrupt by inflating mileage and acquiring. You see, these are some of the things that countries in Africa should learn from each other. You don't spare a person. Museveni never spared Mr. Bukenya. Professor Bukenya was given a red card to leave. He was taken to court, charged with corruption. Several countries in Africa charge people with corruption. Time has come for Africa to change the law. Time has come for the MPs. I agree, I support the MPs that they should have better pay, better canteen, better facilities, so that a healthy mind is the only mind that can discuss matters in the classroom or in the parliament. If you have a mind that is not healthy, which has eaten food that is making them go to the toilet all the time, they can't discuss motions and pass laws. But I want to ask the MPs in Kenya to change the law, to change the criminal justice system of Kenya, to catch the guys who steal and tell their wives that, darling, I've been arrested, I am in Muthaiga, but I'm coming back on Tuesday, collect that money and be ready to pay the bail. That's what is happening in Kenya, Jermaine. Then what is it? What is the use of the DCI arresting a person, arraigning him in court, and tomorrow he's given bail, he returns to enjoy, be driven by the wife's car, which was also bought by the stolen money, flying out, or buying more people, or buying assassins to kill the witnesses. What is it that we need to do in Kenya to change the habit of corruption that is hitting the courts? In a normal democracy, if a court, if a judge is talked about, a judge steps aside. A judge is like, we are going to God. All of us are going to Jesus. God is a judge. He makes decision. But in our democracy, judges, even if he has committed a crime, he goes at night to negotiate with the man who wrote the paper, pays him to withdraw the charges. Are the courts in Kenya helping the fight in corruption? The answer is no. Are the courts in Nigeria helping the fight against corruption? The answer is no. Viewers, that brings us to the end, almost to the end. But before I go, I need to read some of the remarks and some of the postings that this show has the heat. Obina Ogwana says, for Africa to overcome all this mess is for our judiciary to be independent, the army force and the media should say no to corruption. Thank you very much, Obina Gwanu. Martin R. Corruption in East Africa has eaten South Sudan government system. Now you should mention it too. It is true. I agree with you, Mr. Obina Ngwe or Mr. Martin R. Obina Ngu says again, oh, we go up. Let me get to the real bottom of the situation so that I can read it from here. Mr. Ho Magnus said, very good, my brother. Cyrus Shadrach said, continue the good work, Dr. Matsanga. Ebina Gui, I've read that one. Amel Obama said, God bless South Sudan and the whole of African countries. Thank you very much. Godfrey Gabriel, God come and help our national, especially Nigeria. Obina Gu said, Nigeria is bleeding every day. The eastern and the southern region of Nigeria is bleeding beyond imagination. Help us, God. And Joseph P. O.G. said, well done, sir. Anybody whom I have not mentioned, and those prior to this program, when we talked about there is no leader in Nigeria, no military leader who took a coup in Nigeria, who never amassed wealth. So for Nigerians to get rid of this, they must go and check these records of the old leaders who took power, including Buhari. The number of houses that Buhari has in Europe are not countable. Relatives are staying everywhere in his houses. You have made the economy of Europe more sound than your own country. So viewers, as we come to the end until tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, remember, corruption is a cancer. Corruption denies you hospital, medicine, schools, airport, good housing, good health care, good industries, they can't come when corruption is embedded in our institutions. This helps the government, especially the government of Republic of Kenya. Corruption in the judiciary cannot make judiciary workable. Judiciary is part of institutions that should uphold democracy. I therefore urge upholding democracy must be seen to be done. Viewers, thank you very much. This show was brought to you by MATSANGA, sponsored by United Kingdom, Pan-African Forum, United Kingdom, and sponsored by Pan-African Forum, United Kingdom, together with the Black Empowerment of United Kingdom, together with many other expatriates. I want to thank Dr. Jose Machate, one of the few investigative journalists voluntarily working on finding out quite a lot of monies, how many Kenyans and East Africans have stashed money in Europe. He works together with us under the Pan-African Forum in Europe, together with Punchline as a think tank. Our station is a think tank for the people to bring their views. We speak. Our branches in Europe are expanding. Sometime next month we shall open a branch in Berlin, and we shall be broadcasting from Berlin studios. Our television is a think tank. It's not commercial. We bring ideas from everywhere in Africa. We want Africans in the diaspora. We can register Africans in the diaspora for free. If any country wants our energy. I saw the President of Republic of Kenya crying about registration of Kenyans. We can do for him for free in London. It's just a week, and until it's over, you will know how many Kenyans are in London. I just want to take this opportunity to thank President Museveni and the Ugandan government that everywhere, in every embassy, anywhere Uganda embassy is, ambassadors know their natives, both who are pro and who are against the government. Both of them are considered Ugandans. That is the policy that Uganda government has done so well. They have never turned anybody away from the embassy. When you want to go and get your ID in London, you want to renew your taxation, your PIN number in London, the Uganda government does it, gives you the opportunity to renew your ID. I want to thank President Museveni. I want to take this opportunity to thank you that you better open embassies. You better allow the people in the diaspora to vote from where they are. The Electoral Commission of Uganda has worked on that modality, that 2021 we shall have our votes for NRM, for any party. We vote from where we are. You don't need to travel to Kampala to go and vote and stand 8 hours from 6 up to 6. And you have spent $10,000 to travel from America, Seattle, Texas, California, London, Norway, Oslo, China to go and vote. And then just for a day, Your Excellency, I appeal to you. This television, this think tank only does what it's supposed to do. It only brings out good ideas. As much as we might not agree on political terms, we agree on certain general good issues that build Uganda. That policy of diaspora, you have done very well. Tick. 100. Every Ugandan in the diaspora, I always receive my letter inviting me for a function at the embassy or in the hall, in the hotel that they have arranged. It is up to me to go or not to go. But every Ugandan receives his invitation according to the also status, because some of us don't just walk like that when we were in those countries in Britain. Yes, we must know where we are going and whom you are going to meet, especially when you have actually acquired or you have a different nationality or you have different form of status. So you have to know, but they don't. The good thing about the Ugandan system abroad in the diaspora, which Kenya can copy from, is they call every Ugandan to register. And especially in London, we see quite a lot of Ugandans. If they are bereaved, you see an embassy official around there. When you go to the embassy for repatriation of the body, they will give you the assistance that is needed. That is the spirit of Africa. That's how things should work. So I want to thank my group that has done excellent work. I want to thank every group like Uganda Community Relief Association that we started a long time ago in 1980s, where we worked together with Zenawi and Faki as they were working for Ethiopia Relief Association. I worked for Uganda Community Relief Association. We build up institutions that still help Ugandans in their cultural activities, in their health education. We have left a legacy. We have been in this field for a long time. There are many Ugandans have passed through my hands in that country of Great Britain. Those who needed help, I gave them to you. Those who needed papers, even Somali nationals. It is some of us who helped them in Streatham. If you go to London and look for a place called Streatham, you will eat Somali pilau throughout in all those restaurants. I settled most of them there. They settled nicely. They found me there with a shop. They brought their papers for me to fill to help them because they couldn't speak English. But here I am. I've done my best for the people of Africa. I've tried to do what I can. And I will always do what I can until there is no more bloodshed in Cameroon, no more bloodshed in Biafra, no more bloodshed in South Sudan, no more bloodshed in Central Africa, no more bloodshed, no suffering, no sanctions on Zimbabwe. America, wake up. America, wake up. Remove the sanctions. They don't help us. They don't help a country that is already on knees. Thank you very much, viewers. Thank you. May God help you. May God guide you until we meet again tomorrow. Don't forget, corruption has eaten Africa. This station, therefore, is for Africa, with Africa, by Africa. Charles.